I kind of wish it were still going, but it's not. As the Blazers, they beat the Lakers tonight, 109-81, and it puts a bow on their season. Again, they were eliminated from the play-in a few games ago. It's been a crazy, crazy day here at Moda Center. The exit interviews are going on right now. Downstairs in the press room. Got to talk. They've already talked to Shaden Sharp, Jeremy Grant. Da has talked to the media. Coach Billups and Joe Cronin may talk to the media as well. They did talk to the media this morning because there's been some crazy news here. Like I said, been a crazy day at Moda. Chauncey Billups signed to an extension by your Portland Trailblazers, so he will be the coach here next season and beyond. And it's interesting because, DeAndre Ayton was asked point blank in the presser just a second ago about how Chauncey Billups is perceived and how what do you think about him getting booed at home games? And Da said, are they booing Chauncey or are they booing losing? Nobody likes losing, right? But what he had to say about Chauncey was just he praised him and how important he's been to him and important to that locker room. And Chauncey has that locker room, that's for sure. And where it goes from here will remain to be seen. But those are things we can't control. I can control it, you can't control it, but the Blazers can. And they announced that they signed him to a contract extension.
Denny
so now
speaking. I
that's
got
here.
it live.
Oh, you do? Look at that. So let's do it. Let's try it. Let's see. We got media, so we're gonna do this. We're gonna talk a little bit, and then we're gonna go down to the press conference room and hear from the players. Right now, Denny Avdia talking to the media. So I'm gonna be quiet for a second. You guys can hear what Denny Avdia has to say right now at the end of the
He
season.
did it great this year. I've unlocked a lot of things that I didn't know I had. So I'm excited to even come next season and improve even better. And as a team, I feel like he put us in the right spots.
What's the next step for you? Have you started thinking about what you're going to do this offseason and maybe focus on?
Next steps for me is to become a great two-way player, be more involved on the defensive end. But mostly I know left hand a little bit, just being able to counter better. And that's about it. I don't really think about it that much. I have a very good group around me of coaches that know what I need to improve on, and I trust them and our development coaches. We're going to sit down and talk about what I need to improve, and we'll make it happen.
You mentioned this season being a blast, but I know the first month here or so it was up and down for you a little bit. Just what would you say to that guy at the beginning of the season?
Well, at the end of the day, I'm a human being, and coming from a whole different team, getting traded here after DC been my home for 4 years, all the new players, it's hard to adjust, especially on the court, but also off the court, building chemistry. They got to know your game, what you like to do on the court. So I feel like it's stuff that it's built with time, and I needed that time to kind of fit in. But once I did, and everybody welcomed me with open hands, kind of didn't look back. So it happens.
What would you say to that guy during that first month, knowing what you know now?
Just keep playing hard and just don't worry about the future. Everything happens for a reason. I feel like I work hard in the gym, and the hard work pays off in the end of the day. But also control the things I can control. Because me going to the bench, the best thing I could have done, I could have brought my head down and be mad about it or sad about it. But I try to make the most out of my situation, and I grinded. And honestly, as I said, coaches put me in the right position. And the team really welcomed me into a role, and that's about it.
What are some of the things this team must do next season to take the next step and get into the postseason?
I think being able to close games a little better, be more focused in the end of games, we got to be more disciplined. I feel like sometimes on defense, it's kind of hard. I kind of trying to think the whole season, but those are the two most. It's just closing games, be more focused with personnel, learning the players we play against. I think it's a big step of us.
Yeah, you talked about getting a lot more comfortable, whether it's that first month or throughout the season. It's still such a young team. You've kind of taken a little bit of a mantle as a leader. Is that something that you want to do?
Definitely. I think I have a lot of good stuff to give to the guys sometimes. I just play hard and work hard, and I feel like it's kind of shown for our young guys as well. but I definitely like to be like an example. In terms of leadership, like I can't tell you right now that like, okay, I'm a leader or whatever. I just feel like it kind of happens naturally. But yeah, I'm one of the old ones. I don't know if I'm one of the old ones. I guess ish. But yeah, I don't think about it right now. Maybe next year we'll see how it paid out.
דני, נראה שעם השיפור שלך והמנהיגות שלקחת והשיפור של הקבוצה, אתה מקבל יותר הכרה ברחבי הליגה, גם בתקשורת וגם אצל שאר הקבוצות, וגם שמעתי שהזכירו אותך כמועמד לשחקן המשתפר, דברים שאתה חושב עליהם ואתה מרגיש שאתה יותר מוכר, שמתייחסים אליך אחרת?
אני מרגיש שהרבה אנשים מכבדים את המשחק שלי והרבה יותר מחמיאים לי גם על העונה שלי וגם על מה שאני עושה. זה קרה גם לפני פורטלנד, אבל השנה במיוחד אני שומע הרבה מחמאות, וזה חלק מהעניין, אתה יודע, שחקנים מפרגנים לשחקנים. אבל בהחלט יש באז, בהחלט יש דיבור, אתה יודע, זה משהו שקורה עם ההתפתחות ועם היכולת.
שאלה אחרונה, אם אפשר, אתה הולך לשחק עם הנבחרת בקיץ, איך אתה רואה את זה תורם להמשך הקריירה שלך פה כשחקן בליגה?
אני חושב שלייצג את המדינה שלי זה דבר שהוא חשוב מאוד.
All right, there you hear from Denny Avdia. Funny enough, Michael Shacker's like, hey, Burkhardt, can you translate that? Nope, I cannot. I would fail miserably. But I do want to talk about him talking about there. Like, it's funny. He's like, I'm one of the older ones. Like, am I one of the older ones? That's what he kind of leaned upon right now as a leader. And he took that mantle, I think, this season and played well with it. So you got to give this Blazer team a little bit of credit, a little bit of kudos. Absolutely love what they have been able to do. And I understand, we talked about how polarizing it was for Chauncey Billups to get the deal or whatnot, but that it's crazy just because this team has outperformed their expectations. They have grown right before our eyes, right? And that's exactly what we wanted. And it's awesome to see. It's awesome to see. So it's great. I love it. And I like this team right now, guys. I like this team. I am getting word that we have Anthony Simons at the press table. Let's hear from Ant.
This year, that I was really excited about. Guys being healthy. Finally, a whole group, and he's able to kind of imprint his philosophies on a lot of the young guys. So, I was pretty happy about that. Just seeing how far he's come as a coach.
Did you expect him to be signed, or were you nervous about it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was kind of up in the air, but obviously, having a big of an improvement from last season to this season, I think that helped us out a lot. Helped him out.
Was that something that came, obviously you all know that he's in the final year of his contract and nobody really knows what's going to happen this summer. Was that something that kind of, presented itself during the season that you guys talked about or thought about at all? Or was it
obviously, everybody kind of knew. But obviously we didn't know until it became official that, he got the extension. But everybody knew kind of silently that, it was a kind of a quote-unquote contract year for him.
How has this season been for you, Andrew? It started off rough, and you rounded more back into what you've known, and then in the season a little dinged up. But when you look back at the season, what do you kind of take from it?
I learned a lot. About the team, about myself individually. Just going through the ebbs and flows of the season. I said that it was one of my, the toughest season I've had, just mentally, just adjusting to everything that's, was being thrown at me. Obviously, like I said, always said we, implemented kind of a new offense. We playing much faster. That means, whoever gets the ball goes. And so, once you've been used to playing like kind of half-court offense your first 6 years in the league, it's kind of hard to adjust because that's how I learned the NBA game is through, running sets, you know what I mean? So that was pretty hard for me. But I feel like I figured it out kind of midway through the season and just, trying to figure it out from there. And also, obviously, we got a lot of young guys that are, very talented and want to implement themselves on the team and in the league in general. So, it's a lot of room for them to become that and show that what they can do. So, I feel pretty good about going out of the season. I think I've improved in a lot of areas, and I'm happy that I was able to come out and be successful in it.
Do you like the role that you settled into, and long term, do you think, considering all the other young guys on the team, you have like a clear vision of where you fit with your organization long term?
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be like you're trying to obviously figure it out. But like I always said, I always just try to do my part and show up each and every day. And, you know, whatever decision they make or not, I just, you know, you got to obviously live with it. You can't really have that much control over it. So, you know, like I say, I try to come in each and every day and be professional and try to, you know, play my best each and every night.
Chauncey coached this year with 1 year left, with an option year. You have 1 year left, so it sounds like, though, that you're not going to let that burden you at all.
Obviously, you can. Obviously, you have some control over some things, but, you know, like I said, all you can do is just play your best when you go out there and, you know, let my agent do everything else. Have a conversation, but, you know, I would say that's his job. You know what I mean? That's what I pay him for, so.
We all know that losing has been a little burdensome for you, but you guys, nice end of this season. Joe's talking about next year the bar being, depending on how the offseason goes, the playoffs. Do you feel like this team is on the verge of pushing into the playoffs? And not just the play-in, the playoffs.
No, for sure. I think there's a lot to build off this year. You know, we've had a rough couple of years, obviously, and you know, having this big of a improvement from last year. I think, you know, at the beginning of the season we probably wouldn't say that, but I think we figured it out halfway through the season after those tough conversations, and you know, we kind of established how we want to play each and every night. And I think that doesn't change going into next year. I think a lot of guys got better this past all season, and I expect them to get even better. Everybody get better this offseason as well. So I hope to see, like, obviously a much more improvement individually, and then obviously we got close this year. So I think it's only right for us to expect us to be in that conversation next year for most of the year.
You're one of the few vets. What does your offseason look like now as you go into another year?
Rest. Rest for like maybe a couple of weeks, and then kind of gradually build up until obviously when the season start next year. So that's usually how I approach it.
How much did you think Shaden grew this year, and how did you feel he handled being taken from the starting lineup? It seemed like he responded pretty well.
Yeah, I think he responded well. You know, I came up here like one time and said that you know, that type of situation, you find out a lot about yourself when it's quote-unquote adversity or things aren't going particularly your way. You know, I think he handled it well. And obviously we just needed Shaden to be healthy, you know, for a long period of time, and for everybody to see, you know, how talented he is, how good he is. And so I expect next year to be even better coming into next year. And he got a full year of playing underneath his belt. And those times you can really see what you need to get better at and kind of improve from there.
Did any of the young guys kind of jump out to you, their progress from start of the season to end of the season?
I think everybody showed, like Shaden, Donovan. He slowly began to like understand how to be, you know, effective on both ends of the court as a big in the league. And Scoot, he was coming on the bench and playing extremely well. You know, so I think all the young guys, even Roops, you know, this past couple of games, he showed us, you know, how talented he is and how good he can be. So I think, you know, from everybody, I think you see the improvements and you see how hard they work during the season, even when, you know, they might not be playing or, you know, might not be playing as well during that time. But I think for most of the part, all of our young guys are hard workers, and they always going to accept coaching and continue to improve their games.
And there you hear from Anthony Simons, and you know, pretty good to hear from him. And of course, it's going to be a really, really interesting offseason as it pertains to is he going to be a Blazer or is he not, and what will they do? But it's always good to hear from him and understand that, you know, he understands the business, right? As he said, you know, that's what I pay my agent for. Like, you know, they'll run that. If I'm here in Portland, I'm here. If the agent gets me somewhere else or they send me somewhere else, they send me somewhere else. I'm worried about playing hoops. And, you know, for Ant, man, I think it's always been an interesting tenure, right? Because he was drafted and was kind of drafted almost as the heir apparent, right? You know, if something happens, we got this nice young guard, and he's going to be great as a backup to Dame, and he's going to learn from Dame, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then you get into a situation, and now Dame's gone, and the keys are handed to him, but at the same time, you draft Scoot Henderson, and so it's always just like, you know, he was living in Dame's shadow, and then had another guy who came in who he didn't cast a shadow on him, or vice versa. They were both kind of in the same run, so it was kind of a crazy little spot for him to be in. All the way around. But I like Ant. I like Ant a lot, and we'll see what happens, you know, in the long run with him. But you know, it's always good to hear from him. Offseason's going to be crazy, but I like Ant, man. I like Ant. It's just weird he had such of a kind of a down tick this year. Hope he can rebound. We'll see what happens. All right, we're going to head back down to the press conference room. Coach Billups at the podium.
We made some incredible strides, and when we were at our best, man, we were really humming, man. You know, now do I think that we could have been that good all season? Probably not. We're not really quite ready for that part. But going forward, it's just, I think it's really important for our guys that have known how that feels to play the right way and to be able to beat anybody when you do so at a young age. I thought it was really important. And for us to keep going, I thought that was the feeling that our guys had, like the things that we were preaching in terms of the defensive pressure and offensive rebound and then sharing the ball. When they finally started to see, like, oh, that's the remedy. They got greedy, you know, and they fell in love with it. So that's why I thought that's what kind of happened. But I'm really happy with how the year went.
You talked about your imprint and putting that on the team. Whether you or any other coach in the league, every year is kind of siloed. How do you carry that over from this year into next year and make sure that it's not we have to figure it out again, or how do you get them to remember what this was?
Yeah, I think for the first time since I've been here, that's not something that I'm really going to be concerned with, because I do think that we do have what our culture is now. And so either you play that way or you don't, you know, and you don't really play. So I'm happy to be at that point. You don't have to reestablish that every year, and it shouldn't take you 30, 40 games to get into it. And, you know, we can target people that play that way. So I'm just excited. I don't think it will take us till December. You know, we'll obviously have tough stretches every year, but I think our culture and the way that we want to play is set. I think you only have to do that once, and once you finally get it, you just never know when it's going to happen. But once you finally get it, I think you only have to do that once.
What does this team need to add and or develop to take the next step?
Yeah, I think all of our guys need to get better, you know, me included. We all need to get better and take a step, but I think we were in a lot of games this year, and then, you know, we just didn't have enough shot making, you know, to make it through the game. Our defense was good enough, so I think, you know, our guys working on shots, shot making, you know, over the summer is going to be a big deal, and us targeting those type of players, I think, will be a big deal. That will help us out. Our defensive rebounding, you know, our offensive rebounding was big time, but our defensive rebounding is an area of concern for us. And I think, you know, the other thing that I would say is just our feel, you know, our feel for the game, our IQ. And a lot of that is continuing to get better just by way of our guys playing in these situations so many times. But that was another area that I thought, you know, we need to be a ton better there.
You talked just now about, you know, everybody kind of needing to get better, and that including you. You know, now you've got your contract, you got your job security, you know you're going to be here for the next few years. What's the next thing that you're going to work on as yourself as getting better as a coach? And what's the next thing you need to do with your progression?
Yeah, I think there's a lot, man. There's a lot, to be honest. But I think for me, you know, I need to have us in a better position offensively this year. We need to be much better there. Obviously, the shooting and the feel and all those things will only help that. But just me, period, need to be better with trying to get some of our better players in better positions a lot of times. and I thought one area that I want us to get better at, and obviously it all starts with me, but just our ball movement really picked up. But in terms of in the half court, our player and body movement wasn't great. And I think we need to be so much better there. So that's one area, that I want to get much better at. And obviously I'll be doing a lot of studying and talking to a lot of people, and, I'll do the work, obviously. So that's one thing that I'll be, God bless you, man, that I'll be concerned with, trying to get better at. I think I always love like late game situations, and being able to outfox other teams and draw up plays and things. I've really been into that. And we had a lot of situations this year. I thought I did a pretty good job, and then there was some where I was like, dang, I wish I had a do-over there. I would have ran this, or I would have ran it for this guy, or things that every coach would tell you. So I want to get better there too. So there's several things. I think defensively, I want to ramp our defense up more. I want to do more defensively, be a little more crafty, have more tools in the toolbox, if you will. A lot, man, a lot. There's a lot of things that I can point to and say I got to be better at.
There you hear from Coach. I like the fact, and I liked this, honestly, pregame availability as well, where he talked about how he wasn't ready to take over as a coach when the whole thing started, right? When he got here year one. And what I like about it right now is just the honesty, right? To admit where his faults are and admit where his shortcomings are and where he needs to get better. So I do like that he talked about right here, he needs to be better on offense. They need to get the offense up and be better about getting the ball in the hands of their better scorers and what have you. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. And then, he talked about defense too. I mean, anytime you can get the defense rolling, boy, that's going to be a thing of beauty, man. What I think is going to be interesting next year is should Matisse Thybulle, pick up the remaining option on his deal, and he comes back, which I think makes a lot of sense. I mean, you can have a real good defensive lineup with Toumani Camara, Matisse Thybulle, and a full complement of players, right? So I think that there's definitely some room for them to grow, and offensively, I think they'll grow too. Just plenty of moves to be made for this team, and we'll see what happens. That's what Dro's here for, and the team signed him to an extension because they trust in Joe Cronin. So some people believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Cronin. I believe in Joe Cronin. That's right. TNA and WWE Wrestling Deep Cuts. Hey, if you want to join the show, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number, where right now we got Jake in Cedar Mill, who's been waiting patiently. Jake, thanks for your patience listening through Coach there, but welcome into the fifth quarter. What do you got for us?
What is up?
Hey.
So, one of the things that I think the Trailblazers need veteran presence, and I think I know where we can get one.
Okay.
Guy by the name of Patrick Beverly. He just helped Hapoel Tel Aviv to the European basketball's #2 competition title and a spot in the Euro League.
You know what?
What do you think?
No, you know what, Jake? It's so interesting because I don't know where he fits in the NBA, but you talk about a player who I think is very polarizing as a player because he can be a pest, but you talk about a player who would fit in with the way that coach likes to coach up his defenses and get things run. Pat Beverly would fit. And the crazy part about you bringing that up too is if you had a guy like Pat Beverly, you don't really have to worry about someone taking starter minutes away from Scoot Henderson or whatever you're doing.
Yep.
You got a real good veteran bench guard. And so I like what you're laying down. We'll see what happens in the offseason. If he had anything left in the tank, he's worth it. He's
He
a
does.
pest.
He just helped Hapoel Tel Aviv to the Euro Cup, and got them a spot in the Euro League, and worse.
Right. So yeah, that's a good name. I like that, Jake. I haven't heard that one, but you're on to something
What?
because he's just perfect with how they like to build those things. So thanks for the call, as always. And yeah, Pat Beverly, how do you feel about that one, Rip City? You want to get in on the Pat Beverly sweepstakes? Again, I don't know where you go, but I do think Jake's onto something because that does fit. He does fit play style wise, and that matters a little bit. I think it's going to be a really interesting offseason. Myself, oh wow, back out to the preacher. The preacher doing double dipping today. He gets in on the pregame show and the postgame show. What you got for us today, preacher?
It's the last game of the season, and Pat Beverly totally did the flop on Kevin Durant. Remember how many times he did that, like, back motion squid thing?
Uh-huh.
But, I mean, I would take it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, right? Get him a pest, man. Pests are good.
Hey, I wanted to actually jump on, the end of the season. I appreciate the Blazers and everyone who's done everything, including the Blazers, like literally putting things on TV. I've gone to the neighborhoods and actually talked about the Blazers, and everyone is more inclined to talk about the Blazers since it's been on TV. And, of course, the airways with the AM, FM radios. I appreciate that. But let me say this. Nate McMillan was a hard coach for me to swallow, just like Chauncey Billups might be for some. But Nate McMillan coached under Coach K in the Olympics, and he was an assistant coach. So when you want to talk about, like, learning something, hold on, my bird's whistling over there. I'm just going to hear. When it comes to, like, learning something, I would actually think about that. Like, listen, this is not easy. It's hard to be a first-year coach in the NBA. And that's it.
Yeah, no, preacher, thanks for the call, as always, man, and I appreciate you calling in all year long and giving the conversation some substance for us to talk about. But no, man, like, the thing is, like, sometimes it's weird, like, we could sit here and we could talk about players, right, and totally accept that players take time to develop. And sometimes a coach who comes in with, a little bit of experience as 1 year as an assistant with the Clippers, not a ton of coaching experience. And sometimes it takes a coach time to develop too. And he talked about that pregame about how he underestimated how long it takes to build a culture, right? But he did. He has the culture here where he wants it. They're building the roster the way he wants it. And that's why, like I told you guys pregame, like the reason I air quotes, like the deal, bringing in the extension, is because I put myself in Joe Cronin's shoes to try to understand why they would do that. And you start to put those little things together, and then I think you can understand why Joe Cronin likes him. Joe Cronin wants to build a specific roster. Coach Billups likes to coach with that type of roster. All that, that makes sense. That makes sense to me. Tim chimes in on Pat Beverly. He says, may as well just bring in Lamar Odom and Myers Leonard on a vet minimum. Hey. Come on now. Neither one of those are the pests that Pat Beverly is. Hey, you got to get. Hey, I like Jake thinking outside the box, Tim. Sometimes you do. You got to think outside the box a little bit. He definitely did there. This is the fifth quarter, the final fifth quarter of the season. I don't know what to do. It's going to make me so sad. I've had so much fun doing this, but we still got plenty to talk to. We're going to take a quick little break here. Don't go anywhere, though, because when we come back, we're going to continue to talk about this Laker game that just happened, take a look at some scores and how the playoffs are seeding out. And we do have plenty more players hopefully coming down the pipe through the presser there, doing exit interviews. And if any of them head to the podium, we will hear some live audio from the press conference room as the Blazers put a bow on this season and the 2024-2025 season. This is the fifth quarter, presented by Coors Light on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Lakers game today and doing some exit interviews for you. We're getting to the podium, talking to some players here at the media, and we'll get there in just a sec. A quick reminder that the Hops are tipping first pitch coming up. That's going to be on our alternate stream. And as soon as we're done here, they'll be back on the regular Wrigley City 620. But I said we got players talking at the podium. Right now, we got Tumani Kamara. So let's head down live to the media room, hear what he has to say.
That's a good question. One word to describe the season. I think maturing. I think is the biggest word for me individually, and I think, like I keep saying, as a group, I feel like last year we were just trying to figure out a bunch of things, and this year we actually been able to establish ourselves a little bit more, everybody, and yeah, I feel like I grew so much in so many areas, whether it's my shooting, patience, or understanding the game, and not committing as many fouls and small details like that. I feel like that's what kind of separated me this year.
I know that were you all surprised by kind of your ascension this year at all? I know you're confident in yourself, but to go from kind of even where you were at last year to, really be considered as a defensive player of the year guy is, that's a pretty big jump.
Surprised? I wouldn't say I was surprised, but it was not one of my expectations that I had this year. I knew I was going to be able to be whoever I want to be in a certain way of. I believe in my work ethic, and I knew one day I was going to be able to establish myself pretty good in the NBA. Now, how fast it was going to happen and when it was going to happen, it was not something that I ever pictured. It was just try to go day by day, and very grateful to have everything been going on for me this year. And I feel like the only way I can do now is keep going up, so we'll see how it goes.
I guess, too, do you feel even kind of more desire now to keep improving because you've already made such a big jump?
Yeah, for sure, because I still think that I make so many mistakes still as of today, whether it's defensively or offensively. And it's small things that as soon as I make those mistakes, I know exactly what I could do better or I could have done better. So I feel like it's just keep gaining that experience, that time on the floor, and be able to make those mistakes and grow from there. And then, yeah, I think I'll be just fine.
What do you think of the team's promotion of you for Defensive Player of the Year?
I think it was dope. I didn't expect it to be like that. The media team and everybody with the organization did an amazing job on trying to get my input into things and putting stuff together, whether it's on the media or even the small things that they give to the media for the Defensive Player of the Year, whatever the case may be. I feel like the attention to details and what they were trying to do, they mastered it, and they did a great job at that for sure.
You talked about watching football, watching defensive backs. Mm-hmm. Do you maybe harbor some kind of fantasy that maybe you could have played football?
Not really. I feel like you got to grow into that space to really want to do this like at a high level, just because the hits and everything is different level. So.
But you appreciate the skill.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I feel like if I put all my effort into it, I feel like it's something that I could enjoy too. I mean, I enjoy the way the game is played and stuff like that. I feel like I could watch it a little bit more, but yeah, I was always impressed by how they play defense and how it's always a one-on-one game for DB almost most of the time, if they're in a man or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I thought it was always an impressive sport.
Where do you think you are offensively? Like, what do you look back on and you think you grew the most on, and what do you think is the next step for you on that end?
I think offensively I'm still very raw. I mean, this past 2 years I had to play a different role and kind of like switch my game and trying to adapt to a lot of new things. So I think it's just a matter of time for me to get comfortable in the situation that I'm in today offensively, and I'm pretty comfortable in that. I mean, the position that coach and everybody put me in, and the respect that I get from my teammates and stuff like that helped me to be more confident in my offense every day.
What was your reaction to the news today about Chauncey getting a new deal?
I was very excited for him, man. He's very excited for us. It's been working for us. His attention to details and how much he helped us make mistakes and let us learn through that. And he has a lot of faith and respect for all of us for what we're doing, especially because he was a player and he's done it before. So he really understands what scenario we're in. And I'm very, very psyched about this.
Were you relieved at all?
Relieved.
I know you guys are professionals and things change. We all know that in sports. But you guys, like everyone's talked about how much you guys have grown this season
Yeah.
under what he's teaching you. And if he were gone, you had to start over with another coach. That could be kind of burdensome.
For sure. I think it's not something that I was thinking about it a lot, just because I mean, in the season you have so much things that you think about. I'm just super excited for him, and for us as a whole organization, what he's able to do with us, and yeah, man, I'm just happy to have him back for sure.
So where do you think you've grown the most outside of the skill work, like the soft skills, whether it be leadership or film watching or any of those things?
You talk about within those things?
Well, anything that you think, like any of the soft skills stuff.
Yeah, I would say my leadership got way better, being able to feel comfortable talking to players, let them know my peace of mind, and if there's things that's going right or going wrong, being able to be vocal throughout any type of game, whether I'm having a good game or a bad game, and just try to be consistent vocally, and then keep on trying to lead the team.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
And there you hear from Toumani Camara, and so good to hear from him. But it's just the consensus with him, because as he's talking, you get commenters like Rachel who says, "What a season for Toumani! Like what is there not to love? He has been so good." And watching a young player mature, get better, and again just grow right before your eyes is just so fun to see. Especially when you compare him this year to last year. Like the biggest difference this year was he had confidence. He had confidence. He shot with confidence. He played with confidence on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, he was already confident there, but he just played harder, got better. And that's why the team legit put together the packages, vote for him for Defensive Player of the Year and see if he can get a first, second team All-League or whatever. Like, that's how good he has been. I love watching him grow, and he's definitely a piece of the future here in Rip City. Another guy who might be a piece of the future, it all depends on what happens with his contract in the offseason, is Matisse Thybulle. He's up at the podium right now.
Dribbling, shooting, being a little bit more solid on defense, just overall feeling like a better player, and like huge testament to the development staff and like their willingness to just pour into me even when I couldn't jump, couldn't run, but still finding ways for me to get better.
Chauncey said that the way they planned to play, he came into the season expecting you to have a big year. And then, of course, the injuries happened. And then, of course, like Danny just said, you thrived the last few weeks here. Does that make you pretty excited to carry all that into next year and really expand your game and your role? And you do have an option, I think, on your contracts, but are you looking forward to having a full season doing what you do with this group?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I told most of the coaches in the locker room. It was just like, I can't wait to get a full season under our belts, because this whole year, especially as like we forged our identity as being a defensive team, like I was just chomping at the bit. Like me and Roy are talking about how fun it would be to have me out there as well, like imagining the lineups that we could throw together. So yeah, absolutely. Chauncey getting his extension is really exciting and definitely makes me optimistic for running it back with these guys. So.
Right before you came back from the injury, you said you weren't quite sure how you'd fit in with the group. Now that you had the 15 games, how did you see that play out?
Yeah, I mean, I still don't feel like we got a good look at our whole squad and how I fit into that. But as far as the guys who were available and how I was able to play with them, it felt great. And it was like pretty seamless. Not super surprised. I feel like I've always just been that kind of player who can like get in where he fits in. And I think just for me trying to elevate that and being able to do that a little bit this season was a good feeling.
From your vantage point, as someone with the team all the time, but not necessarily playing until recently, like what happened between the start of the season and now that turned some of the more recent results around?
I think in any team you have you try to forge this identity of who you want to be, and for us, for a long time, it only existed conceptually. Like, this is who we want to be, this is who we claim we are. But over the course of the season, we were able to do it and improve it to ourselves. And I felt that just compounded on itself. And like it just built this momentum that became like this really beautiful thing. And then now it becomes clearer for guys like where they fit in, how they show up, and instead of having to get guys to play a certain way, it became this is just how we play. And if you step on the court, this is how you're going to do it.
More of defensive qualities and mindset in this team compared to other teams and rosters you play with?
Do you say that again?
Do you feel like there's more of a defensive mindset and qualities in this group compared to other teams and rosters that you play with?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even feel like we got to really explore the extent of like our defensive lineups and what we could really do. Yeah, I mean, defensive mindset, like it's a defensive identity. And it became like this very contagious thing. And honestly, I think Tumani played a big role in that. Like when you can see someone have that much success and that much impact, it just becomes contagious. And everyone started to pick up on it, and it became, like I said, our identity.
Do you still have levels that you want to get to as a player and things you want to keep adding to your game?
Yeah, and I feel like over this year, I felt more connected to the path of getting there than I ever have. And honestly, that just says a lot to our coaching staff and the development staff of just making me feel like there's a way to get better. Obviously, like, we can all sit here and look at the numbers and be like, oh, you could be better at this, this, and that. But how do you get better? And, like, that's something that really sets coaches and development coaches apart is how do you make a good player better? How do you introduce young players to the league and get them to fit into your offense? And, yeah, they've done an amazing job with me, the young guys. And, yeah, and you look at players like Denny. Like, I don't think I've seen a player get that much better over one season in my career. And just continuing to see like examples of that. Tumani last year to this year. Myself in 15 games. So just, yeah, I think we're all super confident. We trust the coaching staff, development staff, and just continuing to feel connected to the process and that it works.
Do you recognize Chauncey's growth as a coach? Have you seen sort of how he's evolved?
Absolutely. I think the coolest thing for me is seeing how much more hands-on he's become, because when you have, like, all these coaches are here for a reason. They're brilliant and they've proved it over time. It's another thing to have a coach who is brilliant and has proved it, but also has done it as a player. So to have the coaches go over the play, but then have Chauncey grab the ball and then show you how it's supposed to be done, it just takes things to another level. And he does it on both ends, offensively and defensively. And his willingness to just continue to do that day in and day out and just grab an individual, like a specific moment, and make sure that it's what he wants it to be. And that creates this like level of accountability where it's like, okay, well, this, I don't know how old Chauncey is at this point. This guy can come in here and do it. Like, we have no excuse, so, yeah.
It's all fun and games till he pops something, right?
Right.
A couple of times, just here, you've said the young guys. You're not that old yourself, but do you find yourself kind of sliding into a leadership role? Because I've talked to these guys throughout the season. A lot of the young guys have mentioned coming to you, and despite you not being older, you're willing to impart on them, where some guys around the league see that as a threat. Is that a space that you think you've grown in?
For sure. It was uncomfortable, but, I mean, I couldn't play. So at some point I had to figure out how am I going to stay engaged, and then how am I going to create an impact? And also learning just like for myself, like what are the things that I value being a part of this game? And a huge part of it is like community and feeling like you're a part of something important. And my way of creating that for myself was to pour into some of the younger players. And just seeing so many of them have similar struggles as me, and honestly a lot of them just fitting a similar archetype of just being like a next action defensive type of player, and trusting that I've seen enough of this to be able to impart something of value for them. And yeah, just trying to take advantage of those opportunities. And I mean, also to speak to like these guys, like we have a group where there's just no ego. And it's like the willingness to receive feedback is honestly a huge thing, because you got players who've seen a lot, they know a lot, but if the person you're talking to doesn't want to hear it, like there's no value to be exchanged. So these guys are extremely receptive, and they all want to get better, and they're all willing to learn and listen. So, yeah.
from Matisse Steibel, and I love the praise there. I mean, praise the coaching staff, praise the young guys. But he was talking just about how watching guys get better. He said straight up, I have never seen a guy like Denny Avdia get that much better within a year, just like Denny did. And he threw 2 out there. He even said that, in the 15 games he was able to play, he got better. And we saw it. The guy comes out here, like, even tonight, man, like there was one point he clamps down on the Lakers, gets the ball loose. It goes off a Lakers foot, goes shooting out of bounds. And a member of the media next to me just looks and goes, Matisse Steibel, man. And it's just, he's so good. And then he talked about, at the beginning of that, thinking about playing with this roster, playing with Tumani Kamara, having, the camaraderie, and then the different lineups that they can do. Like, that's what totally makes you think, like, that's a guy who wants to be here, right? That's a guy who wants to be there. You compare that to Jeremy Grant, who we didn't get a chance to air, but yeah, he went straight to we'll have a talk with my agent about, what it means to be here and blah, 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 and, what the future holds. Anytime you get, like, what the future holds, my agent will take care of that. That's a guy who's already looking ahead. Tease, on the other hand, he's talking about the differences in the lineups, how they can get to this, how he trusts the coaching staff and the development staff, all that stuff, right? I think that's a player who's pretty good and knows what he wants and knows how to, where he wants to be. And I hope that the Blazers have a good relationship with him and he picks up his option and remains here in Rip City. Now, who did not enjoy watching Donovan Clingan play this rookie year? Oh, nobody's raising their hand because we all loved him. Kling Kong was absolutely amazing. Clean the glass, defensive rebounds, blocks for days. He was phenomenal. Loved watching him grow as well. He's talking to the media right now. Let's take a listen.
We're still figuring that out.
You want to?
I love basketball, so I want to do where I can.
What was the biggest challenge for you in your first season, and how do you think you dealt with it?
I feel like, in the middle of the season, I let, I was trying to think of the best way to say it. I mean, I had a great start. I feel like, I was late, and, I put it on myself that, I wasn't in shape in the middle of the season after I got hurt. And, I feel like that's when, things were going downhill and, I was out of shape. And after that, really locked in. And second half of the season was, all uphill and, really just took time and focused on my body and everything I needed to do to, make sure I was getting, being able to play 30 minutes a night. And, I was able to do that.
Now that you've gone through it for a whole year, would you say the jump from college to the NBA is harder than you thought it was going to be or about what you expected?
I feel like harder. I mean, you definitely don't practice as much as you do in college, but, you're playing games every single night and, it's a lot up and down. And, that jump, mentally is, I feel like, the biggest thing.
One of the things DA said was that even though he got injured, he really enjoyed watching how you played out there. Just what does it mean to hear something like that from him? He's in your position group. He could easily have not, he wasn't even asked about you. He was just asked about being injured and if it was a bummer. And he said he really liked watching you.
Yeah, I mean, DA is one of a kind. I could be grateful for, someone to look up, no one better to look up to. DA is, he's always got great energy and, he's always showing me support, giving me tips, if I'm not playing the way I should be, he'll let me know. But, if I'm playing well and, doing what I have to do, and, he's gonna be my biggest supporter. And, I really appreciate that. And, he's someone I look up to.
DC, with the year under your belt now, when you go into the summer, what do you look at and go, these are the pillars I kind of need to focus on?
Just, getting quicker, knocking down the 3-ball, working on my touch, and, really just working on the defense, protecting the rim, and, working in that ball screen game.
What was your reaction to the news about Chauncey's new deal?
I was really excited. I feel like, Chauncey has, put a lot of time and a lot of work into, get this organization to, where it is and, how this team is, finished off playing. And, I love playing for him and, I'm really excited to, for the future and, to see what the next couple of years bring.
You won some national titles at college, and I assume those teams had really good team chemistry. Do you see this team developing in that direction?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I feel like, this locker room is a lot of fun. I feel like there's no guy that's left out or, is not, included in. Everyone is, best friends. Everyone's having fun together, pregame in the hallway and, in the locker room, in the weight room, everything. All these guys connect. We all get to get along together, and, it's a special group.
Winning at historic rates in college to having to then, lose some games early on and then turn it around. Like, what was that like for you?
I feel like, when I got drafted here, I knew that it was an organization that was, developing and was going to take time to develop. And, I just wanted to be a part of, something special. And, I know it's going to take time. And, obviously, I love to win and I'm, a big competitor. But, I'm going to go out there every night and give everything I have. And, I know it's going to take time to develop and get to where we want to be. But, I definitely see it. Thank you, guys.
And there you hear from Donovan Clingan. Still looking for a couple more. We may have one or two more players. As soon as they come, we'll get to them. But, yeah, man, another player that you heard our Trailblazers insider Sean Highkin ask about it, who, what do you think about the Chauncey news this morning? And these guys excited about it, right? He definitely excited about it. So, yeah, it's an interesting situation here. With this offseason coming to an end, and it's always bittersweet. Like, you're like, okay, I might get a little bit of free time, but it's like, no, I live for this. Just like you all live for this, right? It's so fun to have the Blazer basketball season, and it's always sad when it goes away. But man, I think this is going to be a very entertaining and fun off season, just because there's so much at stake, right? You got different roster moves that could be happening. You short up your general manager and you got your coach locked in, so that part's taken care of. But again, as we were talking about before DC came up there, I mean, Jeremy Grant here in his post-game press conference a little bit ago kind of talked about, maybe, okay, we'll see what happens, and, my agent's going to do this, and, it was tough when we were losing. Sounded like a guy who might be ready to go on to his next stop, and we'll see what happens there. You got Ant, who definitely sounded like a guy who understands the business side of things and understands that, maybe he would be shot, but if he's here, I think he would be just fine with it, because he understands that, again, he just wants to go out there and hoop. And then you got guys like Matisse Thybulle, who definitely sounded like a guy who likes Portland, right? Definitely sounded like a guy who likes Portland. And I think Sean Highkin told me in the media row, like, if you're picking guys you want to keep just because their vibes are always good and they're always fun, like Rob Williams and Matisse Thybulle are vibe guys. Like, you want to keep them around like that. Like, if you're asking me who a vibe guy is, DeAndre Ayton. I want DeAndre Ayton to never leave just because he's an ultimate vibes guy. Now, again, that has nothing to do with basketball, contracts, salaries, or any of that. I'm just talking pure vibes. Pure vibes. The vibes are awesome. He's an entertaining fellow, man. So, once again, though, from the basketball side of things, your Trailblazers tonight did not fall, beat the Lakers 109-81. And I think you got to absolutely give a shout out. While we have time, you got to give a shout out to Mark Mason. Like, he's too good. Portland doesn't deserve him. I mean, there was this pun right there on a silver platter that no one else had taken, and he grabbed it. And that was when C.D. Cicco had a dunk for an and one, and Mark Mason dropped a Rip City. Get it? Not Rip City, Rip City. Oh, well played, Mark. That's why you're the PA guy, the voice of the Trailblazers inside the arena. God, well done. Well done. Speaking of well done, I thought Scoot Henderson had a pretty good year. Started slow, ended strong. Unfortunately, the concussion kept him out late, and we didn't get to see him over this last handful of games. But, man, he was good. He was good. I love the progress of him. I am probably most excited for him in this offseason, see if he can piece it together. And I want to hear what he has to say. He is talking to the media right now.
More specifically, say just more consistency in my technique, on my shots, where I know I'm going to get my shots from, how to create off the bounce, finishing, left hands, but off the 1-2, not off too high, all different angles on the backboard, left and right, floater, touch, continue to learn how to move my body as one, and to not, like, bend over while I'm running, but, like I said, move my body as one and move kind of like my body into space. Things like that. I don't know. That kind of don't make sense for y'all, but, yeah, I just think about it.
What's the
Greatest
thing that,
answer to that question ever, by the way.
What's the thing that you enjoy the most in your second year of career?
Oh my goodness, the 10 game, that was fun. I kind of like seen a little bit of like who we are, kind of got our swag there. And man, when we get our swag like that, it's tough to stop. It's tough to stop. Fun to watch, over the film and things like that. Just fun to watch the games and like I said, like I always say, we harp on our defense, and when we play defense like that during that stretch, and throughout the most of the year, really, I think we were a really solid defensive team, and that was just fun to be a part of.
You zeroed in just there on a lot of technical things with your game. Do you think that's what maybe led to some of your turnarounds, like focusing in on granular details, or was it something bigger?
No, it was exactly that. Just because obviously, everybody comes in the league with a skill, with the main skill sets, I guess, but the greats only, kind of unique in their own way and how they move, how they go on about it, how they, break down their films and things like that. So I think, when you're at a high level like this, you have to kind of be more specific and kind of what your role is and how you could be great in that role and be great as a player.
Your reaction to Chauncey's contract extension today?
Man, congratulations, man. It was cool to see that. He got extended. I told him, dapped him up when I seen him and while I was going to the weight room to get on that bike and things like that. But man, just happy for him.
Obviously, professional athletes adjust to coaching changes all the time, but how important is it to your development to maintain that relationship with the head coach and not have to have a change there?
I thought about that and I was like, dang, that's probably like 1 in a million. It probably doesn't happen too often to where a player like me happens to run into a player like Chauncey was and the person that he is and the coach that he is. Just being able to kind of like pick his brain sometimes and things like that, but to also not have to like adjust to somebody different, a whole new personality, a whole new type of realm, kind of thing they're on. But I think just continuing to have Chauncey around is going to be huge for our relationship, person to person.
Yeah, you started out a little slowly, then you had that crazy hot stretch where you were killing it. You had a little dip there at the end. Was there a reason for that in your estimation? Were it just off stretch or?
Probably just an off stretch. I think I wasn't being as aggressive as I was. Kind of went to more like I said, less aggressive. I think that's my whole thing. The more aggressive I am, the better I play on both sides of the ball. The more aggressive I am on defense. The basketball guys always kind of help you out there as long as you're playing the game right.
How hungry are you, and how hungry do you think the team is to try and close this thing next year in the postseason?
I think we're really hungry. Dogs got to eat, so I think coming to next year, I think everybody's just going to focus and lock in. And, I think that's all we really needed to see the team that we could be, with this group specifically, to see the team that we could be, and we've seen that. And like I said, harp on our defense, things like that, but just get that swag back.
Appreciate you. Thanks.
And there you hear it from Scoot Henderson. And again, I'm very excited to see him. I like that. Hungry dogs got to eat, right? And he needs to eat. The team needs to eat. The team is hungry. And they got a coach who they just locked up for a minute. And, now the team is ready to take that next step. And I'm ready to see what it looks like, right? It's so nice to see finally. It took time, but to finally see them focused one direction, and that's where they're going. And we saw that this year, and that's why I think we saw pretty good basketball, all things considered. Sometimes it took a minute, but if you take what Coach said at heart and you took everything that the players said there, man, how can you not be excited for next year? This is the fifth quarter. I'm your host, Chris Burkhardt. You can follow me on social at Chris J. Burkhardt. You can also join the conversation over at youtube.com. Just type in Rip City Radio and get in on the chat over there. And if you want to join the conversation with me, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. We're going to take a quick break here on the show. When we come back, we're going to wrap it up. I will hand out a game ball. I got to give someone a game ball, right? And you know what? We're just going to wave goodbye to the 2024-2025 season. Man, it's never fun when the season ends. Never fun when the seasons end. I am sad, legit. Chris Burkhardt here with you. This is the fifth quarter presented by Coors Light on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. That was the final of the season. 82 of them in the books. Oh, it's all over now, but the crying. I'm sad. I don't like when the season's over. I don't like when the season's over. I like basketball, just like you all like basketball, right? And it's been an incredible season. So cool to hear from everyone today. Do the exit interviews and what have you. And Scoot said it best. A hungry dog's got to eat, right? And I think that this team is hungry. This team wants to eat. This team wants to battle. This team wants to do whatever it needs to do to get better. And I definitely think that they can do that. I think we saw it today. We saw it last game. We saw it the game before that. We've seen it all, second half of the season long, really, is just team putting their best foot forward and showing how good they can be, right? And you still got pieces that you're going to have to do and mess with some things and flip some things around, maybe some new faces, maybe some faces gone, whatever you have to do. But that core, Scoot, Shea, Tu, Denny, DC, right? Like those guys, they got it together. And then you try to see where DA fits in, try to see where Matisse Thybulle fits in. Like there's still some question marks there, man. But the way this team grew, the way this team progressed, this way this team really kind of started to play as one late is definitely something that I think you pay attention to. And you notice that growth, even the coach's growth, and you get excited moving forward. I know for a fact I am excited moving forward because I just like checking on everything and seeing how good these guys can be and watching people grow. Watching players grow is fun. Watching players grow is something that I think everyone loves to do, right? We're so used to, for the longest time, watching like Dame come in day one and like he was Dame from day one. But now you got all these guys just watching them grow, get better, and then sitting there like, man, what can they add? Like what can Tumani Kamara add to his game? Oh, okay, the 3-point shot, he did that this year. Okay, now be more aggressive, attack the rack. What can Donovan Clingan add to his game? Back to the basket, be able to play with some ferocity down low, which is interesting because he started to do that. He started to show off those little things throughout the last few weeks when he was the starter, right? And so what can Scoot add to his game? Just being a little more precise with his passing and get that 3-point shot going, right? What can Shea add to his game? Be more aggressive, which is what you saw down the stretch from him. So those are the things that excite me, is to see how those guys do after a complete offseason. Now, if you want to join the conversation, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number, where we go out now to Tall Tim, who's been waiting patiently. Tall Tim, welcome in to the final fifth quarter of the season.
Team. Yeah, this was well, I'm a day one Blazer fan, so nothing's going to sour me on this team. But I really enjoyed the there's lots of question marks, right? Who is this Denny guy? Why did we trade away 2 picks and is Scoot actually going to turn the corner? When is Sharp going to actually prove that he was worth it? And I think most of those questions got answered. Was Clingan going to be able to play the NBA speed and game? And for a little bit there, you're kind of like, ooh, I don't know. But I don't think there's any question. These guys all belong on the floor, and they are probably the core of the team. If they pick up somebody else that's just as good or better, obviously that guy's going to fit right in. And there's this draft, it's deep. I mean, there's going to be somebody, whatever pick we get, we're going to get somebody good. And I trust the scouting staff they've put in with Mike Schmidt, I think primarily, that they're going to get a guy that's going to fit. The ping pong ball is probably not going to get us up in 4 or whatever, but hey, we'll get somebody. So there's some guys rising. There's that kid out of Arizona who's right now like down in the 20s or something, but there's a lot of rumor that guy is going to be something else. So there's some work to do. It'll be interesting to see who they bring in. All that fun process is our next little Blazers excitement. And do you think Clingan should they bring him down summer league for at least a couple of games, or do you think he's shown enough, or what would you do if you were the coach
I
the
think
summer league?
Donovan Clingan kind of gets like the Shaden Sharp treatment, where you go in, you play a game or two, and you figure it out. I think summer league, quite frankly, Tim, I think that'd be a great spot for Donovan Clingan to go down and work on, or show off any of those offensive skills that he's worked on over the summer and improved upon, right? And then, you don't have to play every single game down there, but you get a chance to just get a run, see how it is, and have some fun. So that's what I would think with Donovan Clingan.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I know the vets, like you said, the interviews really told the story of. I'm sure the agents have told the team, "Hey, get this guy on some other team." Grant and other guys. So that you get a pretty good hint with that. But then some of the young guys that may or may not be there next year, just because of a numbers game where they do need to improve, maybe get some vets or something. It'll be kind of interesting to see who they value on the bench level, especially the 2-3 year guys. Are they seeing enough out of somebody that they think that they still have an upper projection, or do they want to do they have their eye on somebody else or whatnot? So I think that'll be another very interesting part of the summer is a guy like, say, for example, Chris Murray. He's shown a lot of stuff, but then, we've also seen maybe some of his points that you kind of wonder, will he ever get past the ips, or the yips, I guess, on his shot. So there's a lot of questions there, for somebody going to be fundamentally sound enough to play the game defensively, those kind of questions. So this summer will probably be one of the most interesting summers as far as transactions go that I think we're going to see the next year or two. I really think this will be something to keep your eyes open on. And by the way, I'd like to say that you've done an excellent job taking over the fifth quarter, and you kind of put your own spin on it. And I look forward to you being back next year and doing the same thing.
Well, Tim, thank you for the call first, and then, yes, thank you for those kind words. A couple people have reached out and said they've enjoyed the fifth quarter this year, my maiden voyage as the host, and it means a lot. It means a lot because that's why I do it. It's to entertain you all and give you something to listen to, and if you are enjoying that, that means I'm doing it right, and that makes me feel pretty awesome. So thank you so much for that. And then to your other comment, though, yeah, man, this offseason is going to be important. I think it's going to be one of the more important ones they've had in a while. And we talked about that earlier about how, they're going to have to make decisions on coaches and general managers and rosters. Well, they figured out the general manager and the coach thing already. Now it's just about continuing to build that roster. And I say what interests me the most about that is now that Chauncey kind of has really been able to put his spin on it, and Joe has, exactly what type of roster they're trying to build. So those are those guys who can play multiple positions, defend multiple positions. Those are the guys you're going to look at, whether it be in the draft or free agency, the trade market, what have you. There's still a lot of interest there. So the NBA, man, it's an all-season thing. Just because the games are done for the Blazers doesn't mean there's a lot of intrigue out there, because there's definitely a lot of intrigue. All right, last game I said this guy better call in, and he said he would. It is time for Ralph the Landscaper. Holy smokes, how we doing, Ralph?
Well, I'm doing pretty good, Burkhardt. I told you I was going to call in, and you said you wanted me to, so here I am. And I wanted to do a little exit interview with you here. So how do you feel you did this year overall?
Hey, I think I'm like Scoot Henderson, right? Where I think I started a little bit slow. It took some time to get my footing and understand what it was to be the host. Got some constructive criticism from guys like Michael Shacker and Chad and some other well-respected people in the business. Maybe I didn't like hearing it, because who likes to hear, hey, fix this? But the thing is, when you understand it, you get better. And I think by the end of the year, Ralph, I think we got ourselves in a pretty good groove, and I think I've been doing all right, if I do say so myself. But all I know is I've had a ton of fun doing it, man.
Yeah, so now what's the one thing you're going to work on between now and next season?
I haven't got a chance to sit and talk to my agent yet. I think the main thing I need to do is I made the mistake of trying to get us on YouTube, but that was before I really was prominent on the camera. I think I got to do some sit-ups, some push-ups, do some cardio. Need to work on that to get the wind going. Need to take care of my voice a little bit better, right? Start down in the throat coat tees and all that, my cadences, my knowledge of the game. I mean, I might have to go buy a Basketball for Dummies or read up just so I know all the ins and outs. You name it, Ralph, though, you name it, I'm going to try to improve upon it, because no matter how good you are or how good you think you are, there's always someone better. So never give up. Never just rest on it. Always try to improve, and that's what we're going to do.
Well, I wasn't anticipating an inspirational speech, but you did pretty well there. So that's good. That's good. So, final question for your exit interview. What can the company do to support you better so you could be better?
Well,
I mean, I guess that's Chan and Shacker and whoever else. What can those good for nothings mostly do to help you out?
It starts with a D and it rhymes with hollers. I need more of that.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that sounds like a good plan to me. I know how that goes. And so the what do you were you surprised by them, throwing the bank at Chauncey at least a little bit anyway?
Yeah, I wasn't really surprised. I think we got to a point, Ralph, where we wouldn't have been shocked either way, right? Now, I think if you would have announced this mid-season, yeah, we definitely would have been shocked. But I think you started to get to the point where you could read the writing on the wall with where the team was possibly leaning, and you wouldn't have been surprised if they let him go. But you got to a point too where, like, if they get a contract extension out there, it's not shocking. I think the only shocking part was that it happened this morning. I think maybe some of us were anticipating it happening next week or whatnot. But no, I'm definitely not surprised or shocked. It makes sense to me.
Yeah, well, as a business owner, I've had to hire and fire managers quite a bit, and the thing you got to remember, and everybody knows this, but I'm just going to say it: who is going to replace that person that is better? And for the Blazers, they can't just keep hitting the restart button over and over and over again like that, because I think they're at a point where they're a little bit past that. Even Shacker would admit that they're beyond the point of having to better start over again here now. No, they're far beyond that, and so I think it's a good idea to keep some continuity, and we'll find out in the future how long this contract is. And I think Chauncey has. If you didn't ask my opinion, but you're going to get it anyway. I think he's settled in really well here in this last 6 months or so.
I
being
agree.
Less of a hard ass and more of a constructive friend who's building a team and helping the players get better and better. And that's a good thing. Just like you have friends that have helped you with this little nickel and dime job that you have here, I think he's helping the players in the same way.
Yeah, absolutely, Ralph. And thanks for the call. I'm so glad we got to hear from you. Before the season ended, you were around the world in like 350 days, 80 countries, and I should look this up to see if like Ralph's his real name. Are we sure that Ralph isn't like the lead singer of some rock band, and that's why he would hit like 80 countries or something? He was on a world tour. We might have to look into this. Ralph might be a rock star, and we might not know it. I think landscaping might just be a front. Or is there a band that we don't know of that maybe they're big in Europe? They're called the Landscapers. Shacker would know. He's big into that. He's like, yeah, the Landscapers are a death metal band. Like, yeah, never heard of them. Yeah, and he'd probably have music at the ready if they existed. So, but no, Ralph, I appreciate the call as always, and the kind words and the jokes, and it makes the fifth quarter fun. It makes the fifth quarter fun. I do think your ears were burning though, because I was mentioning you last week. I was like, Ralph hasn't called in. Like, well, where is he at? And boom. There he is. There he is. But yeah, it's your point on Chauncey. You're talking about Chauncey a little bit, and you asked me like, what am I going to improve on? What can I fix? And like I said, I took some real good constructive criticism early in the year from Chad, and I know Kevin Calabro chimed in and gave me some pointers, as did Shacker, and you take those things and you work on them. And I think the best way to get better is to understand where your where your faults are, right? You got to know what you're bad at to know what you need to work on. And the reason I bring that up about me is because I thought it was good that Chauncey said in the press conference today that like he wasn't he looking back, he doesn't think he was ready to be a head coach at the time because he had to learn, and that he's learned a lot here, and he underestimated how long it took to build a culture, and he's learning those. And I like the fact that he admits where those shortcomings are, because that's how you learn from them, right? And then the ability to take that and actually learn from it is big. And I think you've seen his progression. You've seen the players' progression. I understand that he's polarizing, and there's people who like him and don't like him, and I get it. I understand that, but I also understand why the team would want to continue to move forward with him. That continuity that you mentioned is a big factor. All right, let's head back out to the phone lines where Uncle Blazer has been waiting patiently. Welcome in, Uncle Blazer.
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
You know, I'm terrific. Just came back from the game with my youngest son, who's my Blazer son for all the years here, and talking all kinds of stuff. But I am so glad that Ralph called in right before me. And before that guy, was his name Tim?
That was Tall Tim.
Tall Tim. Boy, you know, they stole a lot of my thunder, which I'm happy with, because there's so many things that they've each said I really, really like and have been thinking about and been reflecting on this season for a long time. So I want to just say a few things. One is, I'm going to start with you, Chris. It has just been a pleasure to see how you have grown with this job. And Ralph calls it a penny ante, nickel and dime thing. I don't know where it fits in the scheme of things, but my wife's a preschool teacher. And sometimes people think that the small things, especially where the relationships go, and they're not as important. Well, darn it, it's really important. So the relationships that the fifth quarter and you and Chad before you and also you guys have developed through this. It's part of the Blazer community, and the communication, the one-on-one, the interpersonal, and also we all get to share in this community by listening in, whether anybody calls in or not. You know, people are listening. That's reflective of one thing that's so wonderful about the Blazers and living in Portland is the cross many people, cultures, et cetera, community that we have. And we all can recognize when something's important and of value. And sure, we all want to succeed and want the Blazers to win a championship again. You know, I was here for 77 and I was a Cubs fan. I could finally, after 2016, I can finally die and go to heaven since they won the World Series. So I understand all that, but I'm rambling here, but because my name used to be Ramblin' Ben. But Chris, you have really grown into the job, and you've helped build this community even more. It's like there's this personal touch that you bring that is really nice, and that's and your self-reflection, what you're just talking about. You know, that fits right in with what we're all doing here. And guess what? Doesn't now matter how old we are. We all got to keep learning and reflecting and taking constructive criticism and trying to be better and share that with each other. And that's, you know, so that's the first thing I wanted to say. And I'll shut up for a sec on that if you want to add anything to that.
You don't have to shut up, Uncle Blazer. We're having fun. But no, thank you. And I try to do my best to make sure the community works as a whole. And again, it's all learning and growing just like everybody else. And I appreciate that. And I joke with Ralph, right? He's like, what one thing your bosses can do to help you out? And I said, starts with a D, rhymes with hollers, right? Dollars. Everyone wants dollars. But truth be told, Uncle Blazer, I grew up, right? All I ever wanted to do was be a talking head. All I ever wanted to do was talk about sports. I wanted to grow up. I wanted to be like my hero, as it were, in the business, like Stuart Scott. I wanted to be cooler than the other side of the pillow, and I wanted to talk sports all day, every day, and I have been fortunate enough to do that at a couple different stops. And the whole, give me more money thing, we joke about it, but I am so passionate, Uncle Blazer, about what I get to do when I put this headset on and talk to the masses. And I will bring the same energy whether there are a million people tuning in or no people tuning in. And I guess that's the beauty of radio, is because I don't have a ticker that tells me how many people are there, and I don't know. I just bring the energy, man, because I love what I get to do. And I hope, and it sounds like it is, but I hope that gets out over the airwaves and you all notice that. That's my rant. Is that good? That's good. That's good. And Uncle Blazer too. thank you for always calling in. Thank you for getting in on these conversations with us, man, because I could sit here and talk all day. I still need to convince Chad to give me a 24-hour stream, right? I want a 24-hour stream. But you guys make it so awesome. So awesome. I am going to end with a little monologue here, but you got to have background noise to do it. So for the final time, we're going to hit Freebird for the year. You know that's the sign that we're getting out of here, right? Oh, man, it's been one heck of a season. It's been awesome. So I say thank you to everybody, to all our callers, to the people who were kind enough, whether it be in the YouTube stream or on the phone lines today, to send out a kind word. To guys like Jeffrey, who came up and said hi to me today, like the Lipkes, Sam, who came up and met me early in the year, Air Weldon, who's in the chat, who came and said hi. It's so nice when you guys come meet me and say hi, because I get to put a face to the people who interact with us on social media and in YouTube and on the phone calls. And again, going back to me having passion for it, it makes me know that there's people out there listening and enjoying what I do, because that's what it's all about. I get to live it, but when I know that there's people who enjoy listening to it, you guys don't understand how good that makes me feel. So thank you. Thank you. You guys can thank me all you want, but man, fifth quarter and the Rip City community, like whether it's the fifth quarter, game day, or just being in the arena, that's what makes being a Blazer fan fun, right? We're in this together. When we have a bad game against Memphis, we're going to find a way to have fun in the post-game show. When we have a good game against, Denver, we're going to find a way to still have fun. We're never going to waver. We're going to keep it going through and through. And Air Weldon says, thank you, Chris. And thank you, Air Weldon. By the way, they threw out there as a joke, they want fifth quarter for Summer League games. Speak it into existence, baby. You never know. It might happen. But I do want to say a special thank you to everyone out there who listened, called in all year long. I got to say special thanks to my wife for dealing with this hectic schedule and being my number one fan. Massive thank you to the guy sitting next to me, Michael Shacker, for always putting on a smile and getting us through all the technical difficulties and, being a partner in all of this. We're a Rip City family. Speaking of that family, a massive, massive shout out to Chad Doing, because he trusted me to take over for him. It's a big seat and big shoes to fill, and I hope I did well by you. Once again, for the final time this year, the Blazers, they host the Lakers. They win 109-81. Ooh, boy. 82 games on the schedule, 82 games down. I want you guys to be sure, though, stay locked into Rip City Radio all year long, because obviously we still have the Rip City Drive. I'll have courtside Mondays throughout the summer, so I'll be on tomorrow from 6 to 7, talking a little bit of Blazer basketball. The Rose Garden Report with our insider, Sean Hyken. And you know what? Like I said, we got draft lottery, then we got the draft, then we got Summer League, got free agency. There is still a lot of NBA basketball to talk about, and there will be plenty of Blazer storylines. Now, there won't be another game day until October unless the whole Summer League thing happens that Air Weldon wants. I'm going to work on that. So whether it's July or October, until next time, Rip City, we'll talk to you on the next one.